All right. Looking at cutting costs of governance is dominating conversations right now. We've seen the likes of Senator Benga Daniel asking the state government to stop his pensions. As a former governor, consumers are having to sacrifice a lot to absorb the price increases. Right now with sky-high inflation. What do you think should be done to reduce the cost of governance in Nigeria?
Yes, we have looked at the supplementary budget, the 2022 Appropriation Act. The 2023 is still in force. We'll be looking at that in the 2024 budget when it is when the executive presents it to the House. I am very sure I have full confidence in my colleagues. I've seen the caliber of people voted into office to represent the various federal constituencies at this point. And as a matter of fact, in the last few days, we've seen Nigerians talk about a certain 70 billion naira allocated to the National Assembly. And I want to use this opportunity to appeal to them and to make clarifications that that money, the 70 billion naira, is neither for the senators, neither is it for members of the House of Representatives. It is actually the running cost, for the National Assembly. And a large chunk of that money will be going into provision of office, accommodation for the members who will be sitting. And in some instances too, we talked about the issue of vehicles for senators and members of the House of Representatives, which I believe it is very important. But if at any point in time Nigerians consider that it is not okay by them for members of the National Assembly to be entitled to any form of vehicular movement, we don't mind. I think under the leadership of Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas and even our Senate President, senators are ready to go by way of camels, donkeys, and even bicycles if they are available. We are ready to make all the sacrifices, on a very serious note. We are ready to make every sacrifice to ensure that the masses are happy. And that is exactly why Mr. Speaker has encouraged us that the 10th Assembly, we are going to improve and improve on our oversight functions to ensure that there will be no leakages, because most of these leakages are not even around the legislature. The leakages exist in the executive. We don't have the luxury of resources as far as the National Assembly is concerned to play with funds. So the agencies, the departments of government who receive this appropriation when we carry them out are the ones who will be talking to, will be engaging them to make sure that they cut down on the cost of managing the administration to equally ensure that Nigerians are happy and part of these resources are plunged into the economy. Resources go into the building of schools. The 10th House of Representatives at the moment, we are discussing with the Tertiary Education Fund to see how taxpayers' money, accruing to the fund is being utilized. And we're equally looking at the people that TED Fund has given the money to. So we are going to spring up some of these investigations, some of this legislative parley with members of the executive to ensure that, yes, people who are saddled with the responsibility deliver on these responsibilities to the best of their capacity and even in tandem with existing laws in the country.
Hello and welcome to the channel. Last week, the National Assembly amended the 819.5 billion naira 2022 supplementary budget containing an approval for 70 billion naira to support what it described as the working conditions of new lawmakers. Daily Post reports that the amendment was passed in both chambers of the National Assembly barely 24 hours after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu forwarded the request to the Parliament. A breakdown of the amended 819.5 billion naira supplementary budget shows that 500 billion naira goes for palliatives to cushion the effect of the recent fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians, while 185 billion naira is for the Ministry of Works and Housing to alleviate the impact of the flooding disaster suffered in the country in 2022 on road infrastructure across the 6 geopolitical zones. Further details also show that the sum of 19.2 billion naira was allocated to the Ministry of Agriculture to alleviate the massive destruction to farmlands across the country during the flooding experienced last year. 10 billion naira to the Federal Capital Territory administration for critical projects, 35 billion naira to the National Judicial Council, and 70 billion naira for the National Assembly to support the working conditions of new members. However, the allocation of 70 billion naira to the lawmakers has attracted more criticism and mixed reactions from Nigerians. Among those who have voiced their disapproval of the allocation is a human rights lawyer, Femi Falana. Falana condemned the National Assembly's decision to allocate 70 billion naira as palliatives for its members in a statement over the weekend, describing the move as illegal and contemptuous. According to the senior lawyer, the decision blatantly contravenes Section 70 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, which outlines the appropriate remuneration and allowances for members of the National Assembly. Out of sheer insensitivity, coupled with impunity, the members of the National Assembly, regardless of political affiliation, conspired to breach the relevant provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, by padding the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2023 to provide a so-called palliative of 70 billion naira for 306 newly elected members. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please turn the notification bell on. Thank you. While the masses of Nigeria are groaning under the excruciating economic pains unleashed on them by the ruling class, the National Assembly has awarded 228.7 million naira to each newly elected legislator. As if that is not enough, the members of the National Assembly have earmarked 40 billion naira to purchase 465 sports utility vehicles, SUVs, and bulletproof cars for principal officers and members. However, the legislators approved the sum of 500 billion naira for 12 million indigent people in a country where the National Bureau of Statistics said 62.9% of people, 133 million, are multidimensionally poor. He said. A government worker, Emmanuel Adama, also described the move to give 70 billion to less than 500 Nigerians and give 500 billion to millions of indigent citizens who are battling harsh conditions instigated by the subsidy removal as unfair and insensitive. It is very unfair that a lawmaker could go home with millions. They have successfully created an avenue to amass the people's wealth. The subsidy is going back to their pockets, he said. That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.